Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Zach, and here we talk about overlanding, gear, builds, DIY, all sorts of stuff related to modifying your vehicle. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a cool little modification you can do, and this is something that's new to the market from RedArc, and it's kind of handy for monitoring a auxiliary battery. So in the vehicle, if you haven't seen the video, I'll link it up here somewhere, but I have a dual battery setup with full throttle batteries, a RedArc BCDC, mounted in with a Blaze off-road bracket, and then a bunch of other Garmin system goodies from Blaze Off-Road. And basically all of that is under my engine bay and pretty self-contained, but the nice thing about having an auxiliary battery is I can hook up some other electronics throughout the vehicle that can sort of trickle draw off of the auxiliary battery as I'm parked, and it won't be a huge deal. So a lot of people really like having a dual battery setup for chargers or other smaller power draw things within your vehicle, or maybe even running a fridge or something like that. The really nice thing about the BCDC here is then you can also integrate solar. So if you're parked somewhere for a long period of time, you sort of trickle charge with the solar, and then you can also, trickle draw. I don't know if that's actually a term, but it kind of makes sense here with a fridge or charging different components, whatever it is. So auxiliary batteries, in my opinion, aren't like super handy for really high amperage draw, because if I remember correctly, the full throttle Group 35 auxiliary battery has like a 72 amp hour battery or something like that. It's in that range, and so essentially that means if you're drawing 75 amps or 80 amps, which would be like running an ARB compressor for an hour, the battery is going to be completely dead. And these are AGM batteries, so they're not really designed to be fully discharged all the way. And so if you're going to be kind of using a battery setup like this, those are some applications where you might consider a dual battery system. That being said, if you have a dual battery system, a lot of people are kind of just left guessing as to when your dual battery is going to be fully discharged or partially discharged. And so that's where this cool product from RedArc comes into play. So what this system will do is it will help monitor your battery usage over time and kind of give you some real-time readings as to whether it's charging, whether it's kind of just stagnant, what battery voltage it's at, what sort of level the battery kind of is charged up to, and those sorts of things. So, all right, well, I'm gonna jump over to the top-down camera and kind of show some of the components that come in the package here. It's a pretty small packaging, and so if you're going to do an install like this, you're probably gonna need a couple of additional tools. Otherwise, if you don't feel comfortable doing something like this, feel free to, kind of outsource that work, so to speak. But I will try and link some of the materials that I use for a lot of my installs down in the description, and go check out the couple videos that I have on sort of my electrical setup. There's a lot of decent links in those videos to some of the components and supplies I use, and most of it can be found on Blaze Off-Road's website. Blaze Off-Road too is actually offering a pretty huge sale right now. I think it's like 15% off his whole website, and then maybe 25% off of wiring harnesses or something like that. I don't exactly know all the details, but I know that it is a pretty sweet sale, so go check that out. That might be able to help you get some of the electrical components that you're trying to get for your setup. All right, let's jump into the top down, and then we'll jump out to the vehicle and start getting everything installed.
So the products included in the packaging are pretty simple here. We have the RedArc shunt, the couple cables, and an extra terminal bolt. And basically all we're going to do is make sure that these cables are plugged in correctly according to the labels on the shunt, and have the positive connections pointing downward so moisture doesn't collect in these ports. Once we do that, we'll just connect it according to this schematic here on the right, download the RedVision app, and we can set this up through Bluetooth fairly quickly. And I'll show you a little later, but the app interface is quite simple and easy to interpret. So that's about all.
All right, so I'm getting ready here to mount up the RedArc shunt here, and I basically pre-planned for this to go here. So what I've done is I've ran a ground cable from here underneath up to the negative terminal of the battery. We've got the positive cable of this RedArc system going to the positive terminal. It's going to plug into the back of this, and then we've got a ground cable going from here down to the body, and I'm going to use one of those big bolts down there to be a body ground. So this should work out pretty easily. I drilled some custom holes, put in a couple bolts with some lock washers, and this should bolt up really nice. So let's go ahead and get this all finished up. All right, so we've got it partially hooked up. I've still got to run the cable over to there. It's using a second ground cable I have to my second battery, and then going through that battery's connection to ground. So there's a voltage drop here that's allowing it to turn on, but I need to connect this to go over there as well. So everything looks basically ready to go. I've got everything wired up over here. I ran this cable across the top so it could stretch over to here. Not perfect, I don't love this, but we don't have any more length in this wire. I could lengthen it because it's pretty simple. I think like 4-pin wire, but let's get that in focus. Like 4-pin wire, but it's whatever. So we've got that all sorted. Now I just need to route this second cable, hook that up to the screw down there or bolt down there, and then we can fire up the app and check out this shunt, see about monitoring the dual battery. All right, so at this point of the video, you probably are thinking we're done, but I actually completely misunderstood the packaging here, and this system is not waterproof. So it's really not ideal to be in this hot temperature environment, and it's also not waterproof, so being in the engine bay is really less than ideal. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try and relocate this down into the passenger wheel well area, and hopefully this will be a better spot for this system. So, all right, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take some things out, and we're gonna try and figure out a nice way to get this routed into the passenger wheel well of the vehicle. And I kind of mentioned this primarily because I wanted to still showcase this mounting location on my Rago Fabrication surge plate. I'm sure something in the future is going to be really handy to mount there, and maybe me showing this part of the install that was incorrect might at least give you some ideas as to other things you might be able to mount there. But for the time being, unfortunately, we have to relocate this because I made an error, and so that is what we're going to do. All right, well, let's jump into the correct install of this shunt system from RedArc. All right, so in order to get to where I'm hoping to mount this, because we don't have a ton of cable length, is we're going to put it right up in there. So we've got to remove this piece of plastic here, which is essentially just this piece. It's got a couple clips at the bottom, and then it also has one sort of plastic nut in the back there. So we got to remove this. Once you remove that, you can remove this floor trim piece. Just get something underneath it and pull up, and all these clips will pop out. And then last but not least, we've got this sort of bizarre piece of plastic that kind of covers up everything underneath. It was nice to pull this away just to give myself some extra space. So there's a couple clips in the back that kind of, or there's a couple pins in the back, and then there's these 2 clips here, or 3 clips. And then that gives you some extra space here so you can start routing the cable through. All right, so in an effort to not bore you all, I cut one of the little nipples on this rubber pass-through here, and I've been fighting it for a while. I tried to use a really small screwdriver to help poke this wire through. I reinforced that plastic clip on the end of the harness with a bunch of electrical tape, and I sprayed a little WD-40 on the end to help kind of lube it through there because it's such a big plastic clip and small wire. So I did that, and now it's pushed through, so now we just have to grab it on the other side and try and unwind that electrical tape. All right, well, this is pretty hard to film, but I'm going to try and explain where we're at. So right here, this is kind of the side of the passenger. We're in the wheel well here. Got some lights. Okay, so there's a screw here holding part of the airbag and some other stuff on, I believe. We've got some of this plastic here. See that gray area? I'll kind of outline it on the screen. Right there is a threaded spot. So I think I'm going to use that threaded spot for the ground, and then try and use one of these holes or maybe that bolt to actually bolt our setup to the wall here. So that's the thought. We'll see how the execution goes. Worst case scenario, I try and like screw it to this plastic or something, but I would like something hard mounted. So we'll see what we can do here. All right, let's do it. Okay, well, I think I've got it mounted in a pretty decent spot. So you can kind of see it's a little bit upside down, but I've got it bolted in there nice and
Let's see if I can get a better. Sorry, I'm so shaky, but it's really hard to film here. So here is a couple harnesses. Here's that bracket I showed earlier. We've got the 2 wires bolted and ran through this plastic piece here. And then that thread I was talking about is up here, even higher, up there. And this is the bolt side that we need to bolt to the chassis ground. So now I just have to route the cable for this. And even though this angle seems kind of horrible, I actually have pretty good access to this. And if you see, if I push on it, it's really not going anywhere. I bolted it down really tight. So despite it looking maybe on the sketchier side, I've got a couple zip ties on this side to hold it up this direction as well. So hopefully everything holds. I'll check on it again, and maybe I'll drill some holes in this sheet metal and put in some nut zerts. That's probably the best way to go about doing this. All right, well, now I just need to make my ground cable a little shorter here to put on the body, and then we'll go back up to the engine bay and get everything hooked back up. All right, so I think I've got it mounted up at this point. And there's the ground wire tied to the body really nicely. So, all right, there we go. Now we just gotta get the battery connected.
All right, well, we got the battery all put back. This is the positive lead for the RedArc shunt, and then the ground cable is right here, tucks back, goes down to the pass-through. So got it all set up in my dual battery system here, and hopefully this will help me to monitor the dual battery or auxiliary battery, because it'd be kind of nice to know kind of how the battery is being drawn on over time or things of that nature. So this will allow me to monitor it at camp or wherever I'm at in case the vehicle is going to sit for an extended period of time. So, all right, well, we've got it all installed here. I'll just quickly sort of show you what the app shows on my side when I log in and connect to my system. And then, yeah, that'll be it for the install and for showing off this product from RedArc.
Once everything's connected, all you do is hold this button down until it's blinking blue. You can connect over Bluetooth and fire up this app. Basically, the bottom there in the battery status, it's showing how much is charging or how much is being drawn with that arrow and the current. And then it shows the voltage of your battery and the temperature the battery is at. Over time, the big battery on top that says 0% should show 100 as it learns what fully charged and empty is for your given battery and your load draw.
All right, well, that's going to be a wrap for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to get this product, I'll have it linked down below, as well as some supplies that I can think of that were handy in installing this product. Like I said at the beginning of the video, go check out some of my other videos on my dual battery system, because that might be helpful for all of you out there looking at adding a dual battery system to your 4Runner and trying to find the products that you would need to get there. And let me say that Full Throttle, RedArc, and Blaze Off-Road probably have everything you need, and they'll be able to help you out too if you're trying to figure out how to spec your system for your rig. I'm sure anyone from any of those 3 companies would be more than willing to help you and walk you through it. So big shout out to these 3 companies. I've done quite a bit of research, and as far as I can tell, I think Full Throttle is basically the best AGM battery company I could come up with. Blaze Off-Road is literally a one-stop shop with all of the best quality electrical goods kind of in the market. And RedArc has been kind of a tried and true company running all sort of electrical management systems in Australia, and now they're here in the US for a while now, and they seem to be the respected and trusted brand in the industry. So I really don't know if there's anything better you can source for electrical components in this setup, and that's why I reached out to these companies to hopefully work with me, because I really wanted to work with the best, and after all the research I've done, that's what it seemed to be like, and thankfully they were kind of on board. So hope you like this setup and this sort of stuff. Like I've said a billion times already, I've tried to make some videos on this stuff to just showcase how I thought through everything, and maybe that will help you in your journey to kind of building out your vehicle. So alrighty, well, thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you all in the next video.